I just want to tell one quick story, and then we'll be done. Which is, we've talked a lot about this bill and about the details and about the hopes and about the fears and about where it goes or where it doesn't go and what the process looks like. For me, there's one story that I think captures the big picture of this bill and why I brought it and what I hope it does. And that is, my wife and I were fortunate to go to the president's inaugural about 2 years ago. Don't worry, this is not a partisan story. We went to the inaugural, and it was a moving event. I had worked on the campaign for a couple of years, and so it was a big success. And we went there and got to spend a couple of days, and there was, what was moving to me was that I was shocked by the fact that there was only one moment in that 2-3 days that I was there that I was moved to tears. There was only one moment. And it was not any of the moments that I expected. It was not walking out onto the mall with 1.5 million other Americans who all had some sense of hope. It was not seeing the first African-American president get sworn in. It was not listening to what many consider to be maybe this country's greatest orator give the presidential address. There was none of those moments. It was after the inaugural was over, and Courtney and I were just trying to wade our way through these 1.5 million people to get back to the subway. And as we're walking through this crowd, all of a sudden there's a big break in the crowd. And people step back, and there's a big space created, and I can't see what's up there. And so Courtney and I nose our way up to the front, and what I see in this big opening is a long line of wheelchairs. And it was the Tuskegee Airmen, all still in formation, together, coming down from the inaugural. So too frail to walk, but too proud to miss that moment in history. And when I walked up to shake one of their hands, I literally just wept, couldn't even get a word out. And they rolled by, and I stood there and thought for a few minutes about, why this? Why was this the moment that got me of all of it? And then I realized they lived in a moment in history where people believed that it just wasn't possible. They believed it just wasn't possible that a black man had the courage or the perseverance or the patriotism or the intelligence or the skill to fly one of America's most complex airplanes and to do it successfully. Because that debate about equality had gone on for hundreds of years. Whether or not we all or were not created equal, whether it was about how we were raised or where we came from, was a debate that raged on and on. And it wasn't until those men said, put me up in the plane. Put me up in the plane and let me show you once and for all that the color of my skin has nothing to do with my courage or my conviction. And when they got up in those planes, and they were the only company to not lose a single bomber in World War II, when they said what matters is that we all get home alive, they had changed that debate forever. There was nothing else that could happen but that Truman would integrate the Air Force. Nothing else that could happen but that we would pass the Civil Rights Act. Nothing else that could happen but that we would someday see in our lifetime the first African American become president. Because once and for all, the argument about equality was put to rest by their actions. And that's the moment where we stand right now in education. Just we're still debating whether or not it's really true that every child can actually be successful and go to college and get a great career. Because it may still depend on how much they make, or where their parents live, or how behind they were when they came to us, or what native language they speak. That argument is still going. And that argument will keep going until we're able to do what the airmen did, which is to say, put us up in the plane. Let us show you, let the educators of the state show you that wherever a child comes from, when they walk into the kindergarten classroom in the state of Colorado, we will promise them that 13 years later when they walk out the door, they will be ready for college and ready for career. And what we're saying with this bill is that what mattered to the airmen is that they all got home alive. Because there were people in those planes. What we're saying now is what matters to us is that every child gets across the finish line. Because every one of those kids is one of our kids. And it doesn't mean we'll be perfect like the airmen were. But what it does mean is we will absolutely measure our success by how many of those kids we make sure get across the finish line. That's what we're asking this state to do. That's what we're asking the great teachers and the great leaders of this state to step up to. They are doing it all over the state in every district and classroom right now. And what we're saying is this moment in history calls us to say, yeah, we believe now as we believe then that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all are created equal. And if that's the case, whatever you walk in the door with, we'll guarantee you we're going to deliver you an education that you'll be proud of and this state will be proud of. And we as adults will hold ourselves accountable to the fact that everybody gets home alive. I ask for an aye vote on Senate Bill 191.